Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Lost Point Gaming. Today is Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. I remembered my intro. I'm relatively certain that date is correct, but anyway. So, I think I've decided I'm going to try to record Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Most days I go get coffee. Yes, I have a coffee maker at home. But you know what? Sometimes you just need to have this ritual. And it's also like time I get to have to myself. Not working, I'm not parenting, I'm not. Anyway. So, yeah, most mornings I make a coffee run. So, my Tuesday and Thursday morning coffee runs, I'm going to start trying to record again, though don't really wholly know what I'm going to talk about. I guess we'll deal with things as they come. I haven't been playing as much online. I've actually discovered, since I'm not going to play at the shop with my people, I may actually hate this game. Like, it's not fun. It's not as fun as I thought it was. But luckily, I do have some other games in the queue. There was a day where all the Witcher games were on sale on Steam, so husband bought me all three, even though I did play Assassin of Kings to its completion on the Xbox. He bought them on PC for me, and I'll get to play the first one. I don't even know what the subtitle of that one is, but never got to play that one before because it was PC only. And maybe I'll actually get through Wild Hunt. Hopefully not have to restart a billion times, because that sucked. We haven't played Raft in a while. I wasn't recording during that time. Husband, Boo, and I played Raft. Oh, I think we got like 60 hours into that game. And, I mean, they played some on their own. I pretty much only played with them. But, yeah. We turned off, ag mobs because I'm a casual video game player. I have enough sources of frustration in my life. It's like when we used to play Minecraft. Husband was like super into Minecraft for a minute. So was Epidemic. It was a little weird. I'm like, it's like Legos, but on the Xbox. I suppose you don't step on them then, right? And of course, the kids got into playing. And, we used to play Minecraft with the kids, and then husband and I had a map that was our map too. And we got the Xbox One, and we, got the new Xbox One edition, which, the maps are bigger. Well, that's great. In any given Minecraft map we've only used a tiny quarter of it. Those maps were already pretty big. But okay, they added some cool skippy stuff and everything. I was like, sure, let's try turning on the mobs. No, that was a mistake. Because, you start out with nothing. No armor, no weapons. You gotta, punch some trees to get wood to make wooden tools and weapons. So that you can harvest cobblestone, so that you can make stone tools and weapons. And on and on and on. So, yeah, mobs, they're not fun when you're, because mobs generally come out at night. I think they only come out at night. Well, in the dark. They're allergic to the sun. So they're always in, caves and recesses. But, you start out during the day, and, like, you pretty much spend the first day building some kind of shelter to hide from mobs at night. And when we discovered that you can build a furnace and fuel it and your mat be saplings, and you can make charcoal that way, which means you can make torches. Oh my god, the first time, like, we couldn't find coal anywhere. And I'm like, oh god, we're all gonna die because we can't make torches, because, without torches, mobs will spawn in your house. And then, we discovered you can burn saplings to make charcoal. I mean, we did skip the tutorial, but, Anyway, so we played Raft, and we did turn off aggressive mobs. Because, like, the sharks will mess you up. And they, like, come up on your raft. It's no good. It's not acceptable. And, that was such a good time. It reminded me of when husband and I played 7 Days to Die together. And in that one, of course, we didn't turn on the zombies. And judge me all you want. I don't give a shit. It was this neat survival game, and at that point, when I had played Minecraft, because when you play on peaceful, like, your food doesn't, or your hunger bar doesn't deplete, and you auto-heal wounds and stuff. And, in 7 Days to Die, it was like this, you had enough trouble fighting the environment, because, like, you had to find appropriate clothing, and 1 second it would be yelling at you, just like, you're getting hypothermia, put more clothes on. And you put more clothes on, you'd walk, it didn't seem very far, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you're overheating. Finding water, finding clean water, because, like, you couldn't just drink water from the river, you'd get sick, you had to boil it first. And finding rations, and then, like, we found a house that we were fixing up. Just, some post-apocalyptic home building there. And then, like, husband is way more into challenging, I guess, in games, so, like, it started getting boring for him. It's like, okay, we now have enough clothes, we have a good supply of rations, we have a great supply of water, we've kind of done all the things. So he's like, let's turn on zombies. And I didn't last long before I was like, nope, I'm out. And so he played it solo for a while, and then they introduced, like, zombie dogs, or maybe just rabbit dogs, I don't know. And his enjoyment of the game ceased there because they were, like, impossible. They were tough little mofos that took a lot of hits to take down, and they glibbed you pretty fast. So, anyway, so we played Raft, like, for, like, 60 hours. And I highly recommend checking the game out. It's a pretty cheap game. It's a little bit glitchy, I'm not gonna lie. There are definitely graphics glitches here and there, but all in all, it was pretty neat. They were supposed to release, like, the next chapter, because in addition to, surviving, being on a raft and building out your raft and all that, there's, like, an actual quest line. You find clues that lead you to other locations and yada yada. And we did all the first run, and they're supposed to add another quest line. It was supposed to come out this summer, but it got pushed back. So we're excited for when that happens. We'll probably play again. It, just hit the point where we had finished the quest line, like, had this, nice tricked out raft. Weren't, like, running out of any supplies anymore, because, like, we just had stuff. So we, kind of got bored with it. So, I don't know. I have other games to play, but I just, I really don't enjoy playing Magic digitally very much, and like it seems like limited is all I can handle there. I play constructed long enough to clear out, and on Arena it's best of one, because why should I have to suffer through 2 games against the same deck I'm annoyed with? So I play enough games with my best of one constructed deck to accrue gold to play more drafts. The only reason I guess I keep doing that is because I can accrue this currency for free and draft for free. Like, I don't love best of one drafting. The drafting against other people it's a neat addition. It's weird that it's only best of one. And it's like the draft on Moto in that you don't play against the people you drafted against. So that whole thing makes the drafting experience kind of meh. Especially since with Arena, it seems like you always play against somebody who drafted a similar deck to you. Unless you draft, like, something real far out in left field. Then nobody drafted a similar deck to you. But, I had some fun with that. The other night, drafted a red-blue deck where I had new Teferi plus Teferi's tutelage, and I had gotten Teferi's tutelage fairly early on, and I'd lost that card enough that I was like, yeah, that card's good. And so everything else from there was either like a creature that got bigger when I cast spells, or a utility creature of some sort, or a draw spell. Handful of counter spells, removal spells, that kind of thing. But yeah, milling out an opponent with a 40 card deck, much easier than 60 cards. Especially if you turn 3 Teferi's tutelage and then turn 4 Teferi, you are milling them for a minimum of 6 per turn cycle. Because you get the 2 Teferi activations and your regular draw step. So, you don't really need that many more draw spells to just make that really, really sick. Because I've lost this deck enough, I always make sure to draft some piece of enchantment hate and play it. Hopefully it has some other utility, like the Rambunctious Mud. Because if I'm not playing that kind of deck, I'm probably playing White X something or other with a bunch of life gain. But yeah, that was a really fun deck. I think I got to 6 wins with it. I didn't get the 7th, but like, I had my first loss was the first game in the draft I played, and realized that, like, some cards I didn't read properly when I built the deck. So I went back and rebuilt, and then I ripped like 5 wins straight, pulled my second loss and my 6th win, and then my 3rd loss. But like the other 2 losses aside from the first one, it was like, okay, clearly I did something incorrectly here. Were just really good games. Well, yeah, 2 I lost were really good. I did have like one game where I felt really awful for my opponent. Like, they got screwed on lands, and it gave me enough turns to get the tutelage down and build the hand and everything. And then it was probably the next 3, maybe 4 spells they tried to cast, I countered them. And then I drew my Teferi. Well, I drew my Teferi somewhere in there and played that, and yeah. definitely felt kind of bad about it. I mean, I've been on the receiving end enough times. I know how frustrating it is. Yeah, like, all I have in constructed is best of one decks. And they're all kind of crap. I mean, Sparkle Pants and Darkle Pants are okay. Sparkle Pants could use an upgrade, because, yeah, Gem Razor needs to have that card. I have like a mono red, mono black devotion deck, a mono green deck, you know, just whatever I need to clear out my quests. I do enjoy drafting on Moto more, but, you know, that costs money. Oh yeah, technically I'm currently between jobs, but is because my new employer, my contract was ending. They offered to hire me on permanently, and my divorce employer actually came back and made me a better offer. So I had to decline the new offer so I could accept my old firm's offer, and that left me with 3 weeks between my contract had ended at, you know, my newer job, and of course they weren't going to extend it when I was going to work somewhere else. So waiting to get all the stuff in order for me to go back to the old firm, because I had to like redo all my background check stuff, and I still got to redo all my independence certification. Yeah, like, no, I don't own stock in any of the companies we work with, and all that happy jazz. But it's exciting. I'm going back for about 1.5 times the salary I was making when I left, and at the position level that I was trying to promote to when I left and couldn't seem to get anywhere. So I'm excited. I've learned some things in my time out in the wild I think will serve me well. Or if not, in a couple of years I'll be looking to leave again. Anyway, so yeah, and don't worry, not every episode's going to be an hour and a half. It's probably not going to happen much, I don't think. I mean, I feel like I should have some retraction to something I said on Monday, but I don't. I don't think there's anything that really requires a retraction. I don't think I was particularly aggressive or mean about anything. Yeah, because again, it's not an issue with a specific person. It's just kind of it's just kind of the way things are. So deciding that, like, I just don't want to deal with any of that kind of nonsense anymore, I actually unfollowed, like, SCG and WotC and, the different Magic Twitter accounts. And I unfollowed pretty much every player I followed, just because they were a Magic player that wasn't a mutual, or I didn't have a different reason to follow. And Emma Handy, because, she's just awesome. Some of those unfollows were for the benefit of the person I was following, not necessarily mine, but it works. I still hang out in Todd Anderson's stream, and, like, when Parker streams, I hang out in that. He doesn't always stream Magic. Neither does Todd anymore. It's actually a lot of Warzone. The only thing I don't like about when he streams Warzone is he's not as interactive with the chat, because, he can't watch his chat as much. I also downloaded that game. Thought I'd give that a try. I don't know, though. Again, I really don't need new sources of frustration. But, yeah, I haven't been really hanging out in any other streams. Like, I think it's time to take one giant step back from all that nonsense. Like, I'm just tired. I'm, like, so fucking tired of it. And I mean, I'll admit, I am more than just, oh, I haven't gotten my morning coffee yet, tired. Doesn't matter how many hours I sleep, I'm going to wake up and still be this tired. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe I am oversensitive. Maybe that is influencing me to take things a little rougher than I would. I'm gonna pause y'all real quick. God, what was I talking about? Yeah, like, I'm just exhausted, and I'm sure that has an impact on my ability to, deal with nonsense. And I did get, like, way too wrapped up in my social media, because that's, like, my option right now. Like, my best friend lives less than a mile from me, but we can't really hang out, or if we do, we have to be real careful, because I have certain risk factors, like, I have kidney problems, I have some cardiovascular concerns, but there's an okay chance I would contract COVID and be an asymptomatic carrier. He, on the other hand, is pretty high risk, and of course, I'd rather not hang out with him for a period of time and then get to keep hanging out with him until, we're all, like, old and have grandkids and shit, than hang out with him now and, make him sick. So, I mean, we still text and whatever. My Facebook Messenger has been more active, but it's not the same. It's not the same as going out Friday nights. And I know a large portion of the players at my shop are Magic friends. That, if we are not at a Magic event, on our way to a Magic event, or having just left a Magic event, don't talk to me. That is the only intersection in our lives. And, we can be friends and talk about Magic and everything else, but everything else is just not something we can really, interact on. I do got a couple friends there that, I see as real, not just Magic friends, but, I mean, maybe more acquaintances, I guess. It's that weird feeling, like, I know a bunch of people, but I don't really have that many friends. I mean, that's fine. I generally don't need it, like, but I miss F&M at the shop. I miss packing a bunch of people into the car and driving down to Baltimore or Philly or, wherever. I guess I miss the gathering. We all, wow, just completely lost the word I was going to use there. Anyway. Stupid pandemic. It's just kind of sucks. But this is the reality for everybody, and I don't want to bitch too much about it. I mean, I'm still working. I get to telecommute, stay home, be safe. My kids are going to be doing distance learning when school starts because we were provided that option. I don't feel comfortable sending them into the school. And, I have the ability to do that. And at no point, again, I've been without a day job for the last couple weeks, but I picked up a part-time job, which probably wasn't the best idea because I'm already kind of ripping apart at the seams and, just to add a little more to it. But, so I've still been working that, and I have income being generated from that. But, I mean, all in all, husband and I never got furloughed or laid off, never lost our jobs. We've been working this whole time, and in fact, for a few months, we were in the best position we've ever been because we were both still working, getting our full paychecks. But, our daycare was closed down and we were both working from home. So even though it presented its own hassle, we got to work and collect both of our paychecks and not pay for daycare, which cost me over $1,000 a month. So, we've weathered this really well. I don't really have room to complain about things. Not when so many people don't know how they're going to pay their rent or mortgage. I'm going to pause y'all again real quick. But yeah, it just seems such an unworthy thing to complain about when the situation is so much worse for so many other people. All the people who lost their jobs, or worse, didn't lose their jobs but lost a lot of hours, like to do that. And not to mention, systemic racial injustice, systemic racism. All in all, I don't really got much to complain about, Seems unworthy. So I try not to, but, breaks through from time to time. Anyway, so I just got my coffee. There's a long line at the drive-thru, but I avoid going in places as much as humanly possible. So probably got about another 10 to 15 minutes till I'm home. Because I went out to the place further away. So, my real enjoyment of Constructed ended when Pioneer became a shit show. Which it has been since there's... Because, that was the format I was interested in, and, I don't know, I can see if my Mana Trader subscription level will bear modern. Yeah, I haven't played Moto in, at least 2 months. Still paying for this damn Mana Trader subscription. So, I either need to decide to actually use it or cancel it. But, no, I was really liking Pioneer. The Orzhov Auras deck. Also, Darkle Pants. Yeah, my standard best of one deck is a Black-White Auras deck. Because if green-white Sparkle Pants, then black-white is clearly Darkle Pants, right? Right? Anybody? No? Okay. Yeah, I was really loving that deck. The mono green no sideboard deck. I love the idea of that deck. Unfortunately, it was more expensive when it was out before than my Mana Trader subscription would allow. So, I didn't get to play it, but no, I hate sideboarding. Absolutely hate it. Now, I also really dislike Planeswalkers, and, the whole reason you don't sideboard is because your sideboard is comprised of 15 wish cards for 2 of your Planeswalkers. But I guess when everybody else is playing them, it's okay, right? Right? So, I want to see if that happened to get any cheaper since Pioneer has, they've struggled to fire events in that format, like sanctioned, higher level events, more than just leagues. And even when I was playing on Moto, even though I was paying to rent my cards, I wasn't playing leagues. I was playing in the tournament practice queue because I wasn't willing to spend money to lose to fucking Demir and Herder over and over again. So, the general rebuke from those who feel that Demir Inverter isn't a problem is that people who don't like Demir Inverter just hate combo decks and yada yada yada. So there are really 3 viable combo decks in Pioneer. You got Lotus Breach, Heliod Ballista, and Demir Inverter. So Lotus Breach is kind of like Storm in Modern, where there is a percentage of the time that it just fails to do the thing. But the advantage in playing against Lotus Breach is, like Storm in Modern, it has very few flex spots. While the combo only consists of a handful of cards, in order for it to do it effectively, you need that handful of cards and a bunch of cantrips. You don't have a lot of room for things like removal spells. So, Grafdigger's Cage, which I feel like is a reasonable card. You had the Sultai graveyard deck running around there for a while. Collected Company is, in fact, in Pioneer, and there were a couple decks trying to, like Banned Spirits. It does seem like Spirits has now leaned heavier into blue-white. You're not seeing as much ban, because I think the determination was you weren't getting enough value from the green to stretch your mana base. So you don't see a whole lot of Collected Company because it's this odd position where, hello officer, this format's deeper and richer than Standard, so the incarnation from Standard can't hold up, but you're also missing some of the tools to make a really good deck with it that you have in Modern. So Pioneer just doesn't seem at this time as like a good format for Collected Company to be a good card. Maybe that'll change, but right now it just doesn't seem like the powerhouse it was in Standard, and it's never really been a powerhouse in Modern. There's a few decks from time to time that play it and do well in a tournament, but it's one of those things that's like Dredge would do well in tournaments, and then everybody would put in their hate against it again, and then it would disappear for a few months. And then the next bully would show up in the format, and everybody's prepared for dealing with that, and they, have sacrificed their graveyard hate for cards to deal with, the next thing in Modern, and Dredge players be waiting for, looks like nobody's stocking graveyard hate anymore, time to go at it. So, I don't think it's unreasonable to put in things like Grafdigger's Cage, even Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere is a quality card. So, yeah, there's plenty you can do, and you really don't need to stall Lotus Breach long, because it already takes, generally speaking, on average, so long to assemble everything that I remember playing against Stady. He was playing Storm, I was playing Humans. And Humans is a horrible matchup for Storm. This is in Modern, of course. And, at one point he just goes for it, and I'm able to shut him down. But it was the point of no return. He either had to win that turn or he was losing the next one. And he held off to that point because he's like, I can't afford like a half measure. So it either needs to work or not against this deck. So basically I wait until the last possible minute and spend all that other time cultivating the hand and increasing my chances of being able to, actually do the thing. And that's kind of how Lotus Breach is in a fair amount of games. I need a new dash mount. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, Lotus Breach, yes, I've lost to it. I've lost to it kind of out of the blue, too. The really obnoxious thing about that deck is, unless you're willing to concede when they just kind of hit a certain spell count where you're like, yeah, they'll eventually get there, and I'm not going to sit here and watch this. It seems to take forever for them to actually show you their win con. But I don't think the deck is consistently I don't think the deck's consistent enough. And again, you don't need to stall it out for long. A lot of decks when it's like, okay, I get my hate card on the battlefield, like, if you're playing against Stretch, like, alright, I got my Rest in Peace, which is from your sideboard, and if you're playing a deck that tends to run Rest in Peace in the sideboard, they have sided in their hate. And the thing is, if they can find their hate card fast enough, or you can't find your sideboard card, you can't find your hate card, then, it doesn't really do much. Like, okay, I stalled them for a little bit, but if I can't really capitalize on this tiny window I created, doesn't really change things. Lotus Breach, if you can stall them for like 2 turns, you're probably good. And again, they don't have a lot of room for removal and interaction like that, because there's not a lot of flex in that deck. Heliod Ballista, okay, so the ideal with that deck is turn 4 kill. Turn 1 you play whatever, it really doesn't matter. Turn 2 Daxos, turn 3 Heliod, turn 4 Ballista for 2 mana, 1 counter. Enters the battlefield, triggers Daxos, you gain a life, triggers Heliod. Put the second counter on the Ballista, you have 2 mana up to activate Heliod to give Ballista lifelink, and infinite life and infinite damage. So, that is the ideal. And to get to that point, everything has to go exactly right, and you don't remove any of their stuff, and don't have a removal spell for the Ballista when they activate Heliod targeting it. Can it happen? Yeah, absolutely. Is it frequent? Probably not. So, I guess that deck has started going from mono white to white with a blue splash. Hey, any excuse you come up with to ban Baby Teferi, I'm down. I hate that card. I hate that card so goddamn much. I hate the entire composition of Dimir Inverter slightly more. But, yeah, Baby Teferi is a very close second. Because that does limit your ability to interact a little bit. When not only can Baby Teferi bounce any creature-based interruption, but you can't play instants. But I mean, Pithing Needle works fine. And now white does have like shatter and disenchant effects. I guess in white it's just disenchant effects, because original disenchant could hit artifacts or enchantments, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the reason the artifact is powerful is because it has some kind of zug-zug about it, right? Right. Yeah. I don't know. Shatter's more the red and tends to only hit artifacts. So white does have those effects. And if enough people play these kinds of cards against them, then yeah, sure. They'll have it in the sideboard, but theoretically your ability to play around them should get better after boarding. But yeah, any kind of Pithing Needle effect. Because really, if you stop Ballista from being able to activate, the deck's not great. Like, outside of the combo, the rest of the deck isn't great. So, if you can stop the combo from happening, it's a mostly white life gain deck. Which brings us to the other axis of interaction, Rampaging Ferocidon, or Tybalt, but I guess Rampaging Ferocidon's better because somehow less squishy than Tybalt. But yeah, just shut down their ability to gain life. If they can't gain life, they can't put extra counters on Ballista. They can't do the thing. Pretty sure this is a cop on a motorcycle behind me. But yeah, like, again, just outside of the combo, it's not a very good deck. So, if you can shut down the combo, either by turning off artifact activations, Karn the Great Creator, Pithing Needle, I don't know if Stony Silence is in Pioneer. I kind of feel like it's not. Oh, maybe that's not a cop. Yeah, it's just a guy riding his motorcycle. But yeah. Yes, I've lost kind of out of nowhere to that deck. You know, thought I had everything under control, and then suddenly they ripped the Ballista, and they have enough to put it on the battlefield with 2 counters and activate the Heliod. You know, it happens, but I think there's plenty of reasonable hate against that deck. Like, I could include Tomic as a hate card against Lotus Breach, but it's not really good against any other deck, aside from it's a flyer, I guess. And anytime you have to put in specific cards just to deal with a certain deck anywhere in your 75, you're in a bad position. Oh my god, motorcycle guy, will you please, like, pass me? Yeah, there you go, there you go. Here, I'm gonna slow down. You go around me. Or not, okay. So, I'm smoking, and of course, you know, I ash out the window, and I always feel bad when there's somebody on a motorcycle behind me. Anyway, so as much as Tomic is a good hate piece against Lotus Breach, I wouldn't recommend sideboarding it, because what other deck does it have any actual effect on? Like his static ability. Just nothing. But Pithing Needle is a fair card to have in any sideboard. You know, it's an artifact, so any colors can play it. And with the amount of, you know, just really good planeswalkers in the in the format, you know, you can shut off Planeswalker activations with it. So it has a wide array of uses. So even though, you know, you would deal with those Planeswalkers in other ways, if not for this deck, you can still use it that way. That's why with, like, Lotus Breach, I mentioned Grafdigger's Cage. There's not a whole lot of decks that are currently in the format, or in the format last I knew, it's been a while, that it's great against, but it's got enough play to be worth it. You can also put in Tormund's Crypt, but I don't recommend Tormund's Crypt. Just because you have to put it out on the battlefield and let it sit there. So they either, you know, if they have artifact removal, they're forcing you to pop it, you know, when it's better for them. Or, you know, they'll do just enough to, you know, like where you're at the point where you have to pop it. A good Lotus Breach player that has the resources in hand to do it, that factors in too. You know, they'll play out enough to push you to have to use it while holding back enough to restock. So yeah, it's just because you can't surprise Tormund's Crypt onto the battlefield, exile your whole graveyard, you know, the more information you give them about how you're combating their deck, the worse it is for you, because they'll just play around it. Like, I think Caleb Shear is an excellent Magic player, and I think the worst thing for Caleb Shear's win rate is that he plays these combo decks that some percentage of the time, like a reasonable percentage of the time, just lose to not finding what they need. And it's what he enjoys playing. I'm not ragging on him for playing that or anything. I'm just saying, like, sometimes I hang out in Caleb's stream, and sometimes it gets a little hard, because he'll, like, do poorly in a match, or he'll make a reasonable play, but then after his opponent responds and everything, it's like, oh, I should have played around that, and he gets kind of down on himself, and I think Caleb's great, so it's hard to listen to him, you know, really, go on the self-deprecation jags. Like, the great thing about Magic is you get to kind of play what you want, but if you're tying any kind of value of yourself to winning, but playing things like Best of One Darkle Pants, which actually did really well before they nerfed Lurrus. Well, they nerfed all the companions, but in specific Lurrus, because he was kind of important in that deck. I was actually pretty proud of how well that deck did when I built it, because I built it all by myself. Well, I took Sparkle Pants and stripped out all the green and anything more than 2 CMC and re-engineered it to be a Lurrus Orzhov with Hateful Eidolon, you know, kind of basing off of the idea that the Pioneer deck ran off of. But I didn't have a list or anything, and it worked, and I was pretty proud. Man, I gotta do stuff. Oh, well, we're not done yet. So why is Dimir Inverter so bad? Like, why does Dimir Inverter grind my gears so much? Because Dimir Inverter is a control deck with a combo finish. That's what it is. Do you know what else was a control deck with a combo finish? Fucking Saheeli Cat. Maybe Splinter Twin. I don't know. I wasn't really playing Modern when Splinter Twin was the thing. Not really playing. I wasn't playing Modern at all when Splinter Twin was the thing. So, Saheeli Cat and Dimir Inverter in a lot of ways are very similar, but Saheeli Cat was determined to be too busted for Pioneer. And in some ways, Saheeli Cat was actually more vulnerable. Now, slightly less so when you figure Saheeli Cat is automatically a Jeskai deck, at minimum. Because Saheeli Rai is red-blue and Feldar Guardian is white. And with Baby Teferi added in the mix, that definitely... With Baby Teferi added in the mix and having less, cheap but very effective threats and removal spells like you have in Modern. Okay, yeah. When you can't play instants, you can't disrupt the combo if they do it all in one turn. But it's also a 3-color mana base in a format where we don't have fetch lands. And let's see here, we got all the shocks, right? I think we have all the shocks. We have some amount of the buddy lands. We have fast lands. And temples. But like, I remember when Saheeli Cat was in Standard, one of the Saheeli Cat players at the shop telling me that when they boarded, because people boarded in so much hate for the combo, they just sided out the Feldar Guardians and I think the Saheelis too, and like just went to being a control deck. Just forget the combo. Combo's not going to happen. And it was still just a solid control deck. So yeah, when you add Baby Teferi into the mix and turn off the ability for your opponents to play instants... By the way, why does Tibalt turn off life gain for everybody, but Narset and Teferi only turn off shit for your opponent? And Karn? What is with this picking and choosing what is a across-the-board effect and what is, you still get to do but your opponent doesn't? Pisses me off. Anyway. So with Baby Teferi added into the mix, it does make the combo more secure. But you're also looking at 3 colors in a format where mana bases aren't quite as friendly. And you still need your combo pieces to stay on the battlefield, so if you're counting Teferi as protection, he becomes another counter piece, or combo piece. Whereas with Dimir Inverter, 1, it's only 2 colors. Now, the black-blue mana base, I guess, is not fantastic, because, people are playing fucking Choke Estuary. That land is bad. Not quite as bad as, the Sanctuary lands, or Guildgate, but it's not great. But you only have 2 colors. And they happen to be the hand destruction, removal, counter colors. So that's the thing is, yes, Dimir Inverter interacts with you. Great. But your ability to interact with it is limited to non-existent. When you're getting turn 1 Thought Seized, turn 2, you get to play a thing, and they kill it. And then, they're just into countering and drawing and everything. And that's the thing, is it's a control deck that doesn't have to land a threat and keep it on, it's not okay, if I can be faster, or if I can nullify their threats and even just land a little 1/1, as long as I don't mill out in the process, I can get there. No, because it's a control deck that drags out the game as long as it needs to get its fucking combo pieces on tap, and then combos you out. What the shit? And that's the problem with it. Is it's got too many axes to protect its own combo. Its pieces do not need to stay on the battlefield. You can kill Inverter with the ETB on the stack, and it doesn't matter. It still happens. Now, sometimes if you kill the Thassa's Oracle in response to the ETB, they don't win that turn. Other times, they have 0 cards left in their library, so it doesn't matter. Their devotion to blue 0, it doesn't matter. They still win. So, unless you can actually counter things, you know, like, Banned Spirits was okay against that deck. I don't think Banned Spirits was really great in the rest of the meta before that deck showed up. But when that's a large chunk of the meta, Banned Spirits is alright against everything else. It suddenly becomes a good deck. Or Blue-White Spirits, I guess. Azuri Spirits may be better. But yeah, it comes to the point, blue is the only color that can favorably interact with that deck. How the fuck is that not format warping? I mean, it's one thing when it's like, okay, yep, gotta have Grafdigger's Cages or Damping Spheres and Pithing Needles in my sideboard. Fine. Because again, at least there is some other applicability of those spells. And any color can play them. So you're not homogenizing the format against, or around just a couple of decks that can stand up against this asshole bully. But yeah, no, fuck Dimir Inverter. I hate that deck so much. So that brings us to, what do you ban? Well, if you ban Dig Through Time, the consistency level of that deck goes way down. Because 3 random cards is, like, I can't even explain how much worse than picking the best 2 out of 7. And putting those 7 back on the, or the other 5 back on the bottom. So, not in the graveyard, and you can take anything. It's not limited to, you can only take instants or creatures or anything like that. You can take a fucking land. If you look at 7 lands, you can take 2 lands. And you don't have to reveal shit, because, again, it's not... If you haven't made the connection, cards that require you to reveal what you get are generally because there's a limit to what you can get. Like, you know, instant or sorcery or creature or whatever. You have to reveal it to provide evidence that you're not in fact cheating and you didn't just take a fucking Torrential Gearhulk off that impulse. But cards that don't have a stipulation on what kind of card you can get, you tend to not have to reveal, because there's no reason you need to show it to show that you're not, in fact, cheating. Or misreading the card. That happens a lot. Dude, I've tried to spell Pierce Creatures before because I failed to read the card. So... if they put Treasure Cruise in place of Dig Through Time, yeah, they're still going to combo out some percentage of the game, but it becomes riskier. It becomes way less consistent. But you're also going to cheese off all the nostalgia players that were so excited to finally have a format where they could play Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time again. And notice how those cards really aren't played in any other deck. Because in Pioneer, the Delve cards really aren't as dangerous as they were in Modern. Because you don't have these quick ways to fill your graveyard, like fetch lands and Thought Scour and that kind of thing. Like, Death Shadow plays Gurmag Angler because it plays Thought Scour. It fills up its graveyard relatively quickly between fetch lands and, you know, because it wants to fetch and shock it. And you want to get your life total down. You know, it's like, yeah, I totally bought a playset of Deathrite Shamans when Pioneer was announced, and notice how they're not getting played. Because you don't have fetch lands. So you can't cheese out, you know, 2 mana on turn 1. Maybe you couldn't before. I don't know. I've never actually read Death Ray Shaman. In any case, it doesn't matter. So, without all those things to fuel the graveyard for, delve spells, they become much less dangerous. So you could ban Dig Through Time. I would say just go for the fucking throat and ban Inverter. Because you know what? You can still build some kind of cute little self-mill deck. Every once in a while one springs up in Modern. And, go for that kind of game win with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and Thassa's Oracle, and Dig Through Time. Because if you're self-milling, you can now heal those delve spells a little better. Also, why the fuck is Dig Through Time an instant? Why is Gift given an instant? Who came up with this shit? I remember the first time an opponent played Gift Given on my end step, and I was like, that card's an instant? What? But yeah, why is Dig Through Time an instant? That's some bullshit. But yeah, you gotta have this, control-y self-mill deck. Without, just the immediate impact of Inverter of Truth. So, yeah, I personally, that would be my call. Because you still leave this fun kind of option open. And, I mean, what other value does Inverter of Truth has? Has it ever been played before in a constructed deck? I kind of feel like no. And, in fact, I'm pretty sure no. I'm pretty sure when that card came out, everybody was like, wow, that card's it's bad. This card is bad. This is the one application of it. So, you're not going to collateral damage on anything else. They hate banning Planeswalkers, so there you go. You're not banning Jace, and I don't think banning Jace or Oracle does enough. So, yeah. My campaign is for a ban on actual Inverter of Truth. I think that is the best way to go. And if they do that, maybe people will play Pioneer again. I mean, and then you get into the question of, is playing Historic on Arena or a Pioneer on Moto the way people want to go and everything? As far as the idea that they can just port the cards over from Moto into Arena, because the logic's already done and everything, I don't think it's quite that simple. I mean, I haven't dug through anything in, Moto or Arena to see, what language is being used and that kind of stuff. But I know they built Arena with newer technology than they did Moto. So while the logic may be there, you may not be able to just copy and paste like people think. There may be, it may be a lot of man hours involved in adapting the code for the newer tech. I mean, I've worked on systems that had old .NET web forms, and part of the system was new MVC, and we were slowly converting. But it's not as simple as, well, just copy the web forms logic into MVC. There's a lot more to it than that. In that case, you're still using the same basic server language, either VB or C Sharp. Hopefully C Sharp. It's so much better. But the way the framework works is different in such a way you can't just copy pasta this stuff. So as far as the critique that because they already have the logic demonstrated in Modo, that means that they should be able to just port it over to Arena without a problem. No, it doesn't quite work like that. So, I would love to see them just either make Historic Pioneer or bring Pioneer over to Arena. But I don't think either of these things are going to happen. I think Historic, like, the entire impetus behind the Historic format was, well, people spent money to get cards in this game. Those cards are about to rotate. We have no way for you to turn cards you don't want into cards you do want. So unless it's giving wild cards for every card in their collection that just rotated, which, collapses the money-making economy on Arena for WotC. And no, they're not gonna... Again, we all need to understand that WotC isn't some benevolent company that just wants to spread the joy of gaming to everybody. No, they're a company out to make money, and there's nothing wrong with a company trying to turn a profit. Yeah, sometimes their cash grabs get really bad, like these VIP packs and whatever, but you know what? It all comes down to, no, I don't like specialty product that costs a shit ton of money and it's the only way to get those cards. Like the unique box topper cards in the set, that you could only get copies of those cards by buying a booster box. I think that's shitty. But, you can either buy this beat but playable, Scalding Tarn, or you can spend, $350 on the Secret Lair set to get one super Skippy edition Scalding Tarn. Just buy the old beat Scalding Tarns, You still have an ability to play. So as far as these VIP packs, as far as I'm aware, they are just like super Skippy premium versions of cards that are available in, a regular version for significantly less. You don't want to buy them, don't buy them. I'm not going to buy them. I'm really annoyed that they're making me care about Double Masters, because I just ignored it. I was like, yeah, I'm not investing anything in that, but the special alt full art Noble Hierarchs and Meddling Mages are calling my name. But even there, like, I'm probably not going to buy boxes because, like, it's a lotto. I'm probably just going to buy the singles that I want. But cards like Noble Hierarch, even like regular printings, are expensive. So yes, it needs to be reprinted more. But as far as like, the premium edition, like Stoner at the shop, he always plays blue-white. He has a blue-white modern deck, and I mean, you'll go blind from looking at it because everything is foil, and it's like the super premium edition of all these cards. Like, all of his lands are the expedition lands, and he's got the invocation spell. Actually, I don't know if he has the invocation spells because they're pretty ugly. But like, he has the most premium version of pretty much every card in this deck. Well, he's been playing this deck for like fucking ever, and this is what he chooses to spend his money on. This is what brings him joy. He has the income to do it. He, is foiling out his deck. Okay, cool. That's totally your option. I'm not so into that. I did see when I did side events in Philly, the one Modern Humans player had a foil Humans deck, and it was very pretty. And I did buy 4 Secret Lair Thalias to get the one art that I really wanted. The one of her standing in front of the Hell Vault cracking open. so I can put them in my human stack. You know, I wanted them and I bought them, and I had the funds to do so. And yes, it is definitely much easier for me to say at my income level, like, you know, it's not a big deal. WotC's out to make money. There is definitely some price gouging. There is definitely some aspect of extorting basically an addiction that I do want to see go away. Like, as far as Rudy Poo, whatever, you know, matte, regular art versions of the cards, I would love to see them affordable. All of them. I don't like the play your wallet aspect of Magic. You know, especially when, you know, if you're trying to play in any kind of real competitive sense, but you don't have that community of players that you're like, shit, guys, I need 4 Mutavolts and I don't have them. Who's got them for me to borrow? When you have to fund all your own stuff. Yeah, as far as the gatekeepery bullshit of asking a non-cis white male player how much of their deck they own, or if they own that deck, like, whatever. My entire Twitter feed leading up to a large event previously was, you know, high-end players that I followed bat signaling for cards. Most of these players that play at that top end don't own everything that they play, because in order to play at that top end, you have to constantly be shifting what you're playing. You can't have the whole pet deck thing. Like, I mean, there are certain players, like, if you saw Tannen Grace playing, you knew he was probably on Legacy. I think didn't he play Lance? Or maybe I'm confusing him with Jody Keith there. I know Jody Keith always played Lance in Legacy. If you see Caleb Shearer playing in Modern, you can usually assume he's on Storm. But for the most part, like, Brad Nelson was considered, like, the standard master because Brad Nelson could play the best deck in the format. Like, his skill range covered all the archetypes relatively easily, or evenly. I'm sure there was an archetype he was better at than the rest, but for the most part, it didn't matter if the best deck in Standard was an aggro deck, a control deck, a combo deck, a mid-range deck. Brad Nelson could play it. And he did so well in Standard by adjusting what he was playing based on what he was seeing from, you know, Moto data and other tournaments going on to see what was best positioned that week. It's not because he stuck with the same Standard deck for a format. I mean, with Standard, you tend to, but, like, I've talked before about how Modern is a wheel that kind of ticks. And, you know, for a few months, this deck's on top, and then everybody starts stocking enough hate against that deck that it knocks it down, and then another deck ends up on top for a little bit. And it just keeps doing that. It is, for the most part, a self-correcting format. And in order to consistently do well in that kind of environment, you have to be adjusting what you're playing to what is going to do well that week. So a lot of these players don't, in fact, own all the cards they play because can you imagine how much that would cost? You know, having playsets of pretty much anything that could be played in a format so that on any given week, you could say, oh, this is what's going to do well, and I'm just going to play, you know, I'm just going to whip it up here. In any case, yeah, there is a big financial barrier to playing Magic in any way competitively. And I do think these premium printings do put at least some downward pressure on the older regular printings that are now much less prestigious, even though they're older. So from that aspect, maybe it's a good thing. But really, I think they just need to be more aggressive about reprints. And I understand there are collectors out there that are invested, and they look at their cards as this investment. And whenever you invest in a collectibles market, it is a high-risk investment. Not only because things could affect the value of it, as far, you know, the actual market could affect the value of it, but these investments are also more physically at risk. You know, house fire or wherever you're storing them, fire, flood, whatever. So I'm really, really not into the, well, we can't reprint so hard because we can't affect the investment value of them. And I mean, this is coming from somebody that I would love to see Noble Hierarchs sitting at $10 a piece after paying $50 a piece for mine. And I would be totally fine with that. But I mean, I also didn't spend money that I didn't have to spend on them. And no, WotC is not responsible for other people's poor financial decisions, but there comes a point where they are exploiting an audience known to do these things. You know, and you do hit a point where it's got to be like, no, you should be more responsible than that. So, anyway, with Arena, if they cashed out your entire collection of cards that rotated in wild cards, you would rarely have a need to spend wild cards, or to spend money to accrue more wild cards or get cards, you know, packs and drafts and stuff. Therefore, they can't do that. If they give you an ability to turn crap you don't want into crap you do want, that also affects their bottom line. Though I think you could reasonably come up with a trade system, like trade 4 commons, you know, dust 4 commons for a common wild card, dust 3 uncommons for an uncommon wild card, 2 rares, 1 mythic, or maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, and or 5, 4, 3, and 2. That, yeah, you're, as the player, you're still losing something. You know, a 1-for-1 on the mythic, probably not the best, but I don't think it should be a 4-for-1 on the mythic or anything. And I think it should be any cards at that rarity, not you have to dust a playset of commons to get the common wild card of the same common. But without any ability to transition these cards, you were going to end up with a very angry player base that had invested in this game, accrued these collections, and now these cards were utterly worthless. There was absolutely nothing you could do with them unless they got reprinted. So there's Historic. It is a way to continue to play these cards. Okay, you know, that's cool and all. And more it seems to be becoming an actual format. They're putting in supplemental cards, you know, like BTEs and whatnot, which is just weird. Like, some of the card choices are weird. Like, why is Thalia in Historic? But, you know, they're trying to make this its own distinct format, and I think that might have been somewhat of a mistake, because trying to have you have Historic and Pioneer competing kind of for the same player base. You know, you have these formats that are competing for players that were standard players or are standard players, want something to do between standard and modern. And I really think Historic and Pioneer should probably congeal into one format, and I would prefer to see it be Pioneer. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm now sitting in my driveway, probably scaring people, and we have gotten over an hour, so I'm going to cut it here. Hopefully I'll record another episode next Tuesday. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but we'll figure this out as we go. But I am definitely taking a very large step back from the wider Magic community, because it's just frustrating. Like, it just is. And it makes sense that it is. I mean, you know, we get squabbles that pop up in my local community and everything, and, you know, this person's not really on great terms with this person, whatever, and, you know, in the, you know, during F&M, we can all get along and whatever, and then outside of that, you know, maybe there's some smack talk or whatever. So when you exponentially multiply that towards this larger community, not to mention Twitter is just really not a good vehicle for interaction, especially with people you don't really know, but Twitter somehow encourages that, it turns into a giant mess. And I don't know, my capacity to deal with it's just pretty much shot. I mean, like I said, a lot of people I unfollowed because, like, I just don't want to see it anymore. Some people I unfollowed because I keep awkwardly trying to interact with them, and I've decided that that's causing me stress, and I just don't want to do it anymore. So that's where we're at. Yeah. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully I'll talk to you all again on Tuesday.